Morning.
Today's learning should be a merit for Refuah Shalema for Gavriel ben Etel Gita. Okay, we started Perek Gimel chapter 3, Mishna Yud Aleph, Mishna 11, and we will continue from where we left off yesterday. Kainam sheninena la'arelim. In this case, a person says that, like a carbon, I will not have benefit from arelim. Now, the literal translation of arelim is someone who does not have a bris milah, someone who is uncircumcised. Okay, so he says that he is konam as a carbon, meaning he says anybody who is an arel, okay, anybody who is called an arel, I will not have benefit from. That's his nedar. Okay, so now who does that include? Who does that exclude? Mutter ba'arle Yisrael, he is permitted to have benefit from uncircumcised Jews, v'aser b'mulei akum, and he's forbidden from non-Jews who are circumcised. So again, the konam was, he made like a carbon, he made as a neder, he cannot have benefit from anyone who is an orel. Says the Mishnah, who is included in an orel? Who's not included is an orel, a Jewish uncircumcised person, and who is included and forbidden are non-Jews, even those who are circumcised. What's the pshat? What's the explanation? The answer is that when a person makes a neder and he refers to an arel, he is referring to someone who does not believe in the mitzvah of bris milah. It's not about physically being circumcised or not. It's about basically believing, and it's about believing in the mitzvah of bris milah. You know, that the bris milah relates to you. The mitzvah bris milah relates to you. So now, if let's say the Mishnah says that even those goyim who are non-Jews who are circumcised are called arel, because they don't have the mitzvah. They don't have the mitzvah, they don't believe in the mitzvah. Even if they officially say that they have the mitzvah, it's not the Torah's mitzvah. And therefore, even though they are actually circumcised, nonetheless, they're still called arel. They're still called uncircumcised. Now, but the Mishnah says, and therefore they're forbidden. However, it says Jews who are uncircumcised are included. Now, why? Why are they included? If they didn't, why didn't they have a bris milah? So the Mishnah's explanation is that as they point out here in the bottom, as the Bartanura points out, there are people, Jews, who are not obligated to have a bris milah. Who are they? Someone has two brothers who had a bris milah and died because of the bris milah. The next brother does not have to have a bris milah. It's considered dangerous for him. Okay? So practically speaking, he is an arel. He is uncircumcised. But it's not that he doesn't believe in the mitzvah. He believes in it. He just can't do it. And therefore, he is not included in the word arel. He's not included in that. Now, what I did not see directly discussed is what about a Jew who is capable of having a bris milah and doesn't have a bris milah?
How can you do it?
He didn't. He doesn't. He's off. He's off the derech. Doesn't believe. Yeah. The person doesn't believe in Torah mitzvahs. Okay. So now, is he included in this? In the title arel?
But he doesn't know that it's. He's not aware of the mitzvah.
No, he is aware of the mitzvah.
Oh, he is. Okay.
He's aware of the mitzvah. He doesn't believe in it. He's an apikairis.
Oh, so that's.
He's an apikairis.
How do you do it when you're 8 days old?
The father, he grew up. He grew up. He came to the point where he himself should be able to take care of himself.
Right.
He doesn't do it.
All right.
And he doesn't do it. Let's keep it simple. He doesn't do it intentionally.
All right.
Is that person going to be included in this word arel? Could be. Because the examples that are given of the Arle Yisrael, of the Jewish arelim that are not included in this word arel for his neder, it's always described as those who can't have a bris milah, not those who would go in and reject it. But I didn't see anybody say that directly. Okay. Now, so here is where the neder was made. You're not going to benefit from arelim. The next example is like this. In this case, the vow is, I will not have benefit from those who are mulim, those who have a bris milah. New case. The neder is, he says, I'm not going to benefit from those who have a bris milah. Asr ba'arle Yisrael, that includes even those Arle Yisrael, those Jews who don't have a bris milah, like we said, because of the fact that they can't have one because their brothers died from it. They are still called, including the word mulim, they're still called circumcised because they believe. They're still called that they have the bris, that they're mulim, they have the bris milah because they believe in it. Umutter b'mula yakum, and he's permitted in the non-Jews who have a bris milah. We know they're non-Jews who had bris milah done, and at the end of the day, though, they're not called mulim. They don't fall under the title mulim. It's not called that they have a bris milah because of the fact that they don't believe in the Torah's mitzvah of bris milah. They're doing their own thing. So therefore, at the end of the day, a non-Jew who has a bris milah is called an Arel. He is not called Gemalt. He's not called someone who has a bris milah. He is called an Arel. Now, the Mishnah now elaborates on that. Sheda Arla Kruya Elul Hashem Akum, because the term Arla is used only to refer to the nations, the non-Jewish nations of the world. Meaning we find this. We're going to now show where we find in Sukkim, in verses, that non-Jews are automatically referred to as Arel, as uncircumcised. Shneamar, as the pasuk says, Kikol hagoyim arelim, for all the nations are arelim, uncircumcised. Chobeis Yisrael ar leilev, and the whole house of Israel are uncircumcised of the heart. So now, when referring to all the nations, is referring to all the nations as uncircumcised. Now, there are nations who practice circumcision. Nonetheless, right? Nonetheless, the pasuk calls all nations, meaning all non-Jewish nations, are Elam. Okay, that's one pasuk. V'oimer, and now we have another verse to point this out. V'ya plishti hara lazeh. This is talking about when David was going to fight with Goliath, and he referred to him as, and this Arel Plishti, this Plishti was an Arel. Okay, so now the way they explain it down here is, who says he was an Arel? Maybe he had a bris. Now the way they say it here is that David called, I'm reading here from the bottom, which is from the Tosfos Yantif. David called Goliath an Arel, although he did not know whether Goliath was circumcised or not. It is possible, though uncommon, for someone to be born circumcised without a foreskin. Not common, but it's possible. So the fact that he went ahead and he called Goliath an Arel, when maybe he wasn't an Arel, means to say that doesn't make a difference. At the end of the day, he's called an Arel. And then V'oimer, another verse that brings out this point, Pentismachna b'nois plishtim, lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice, Pentalois the b'nois arelim, lest the daughters of the Arelim be jubilant. Here again, this sweeping description of the daughters of the Arelim, referring to the daughters of the Plishtim, calling them Arelim, the daughters of the uncircumcised. I don't know, maybe they have a circumcision, maybe they were born circumcised. So again, the fact that this general description of these non-Jews is called Arelim, so you see, already we have sources, or at least allusions, in the verses that a non-Jew is automatically called an Arel. Now, they bring down here in the bottom an interesting point, and that is, why are we even bringing in these psukim? What's the point? Clearly, the Mishnah is bringing in these verses to show us that we find that non-Jews are called Arelim. But we know that Nedarim, when it comes to vows, it's not about how the Torah refers. It's about how people use the word. It's not about how the Torah used the term, it's how the people use the term. So the fact that we're turning here to the verses seems a bit strange. And therefore, the way they explained it here on the bottom is, the Mishnah cites these verses because the popular meaning of Arelim was not known with certainty. For some reason, they didn't know for certain how people use the word Arelim, and therefore, now when we don't know exactly how people use it, we'll go back to the term is brought in the Torah, in Tanakh, and based on that, we will determine and say, okay, what is the meaning of this word? How are people using it? But even though we don't need that to determine, in this case, we have to determine it that way because we didn't know how people, weren't certain how people use it, and therefore we turn to these verses in Tanakh to clarify. Last thing for today, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Omer, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said, Ma'usa Arla, the foreskin is repulsive. Sheniskanu bar Rishoyim, because the evil are derided through it. As the pasuk said before, Shnamar it says, for all the nations are arelim. Clearly, the pasuk, the prophet, was not complimenting them when saying this. He was putting them down. And how did he put them down? What word did he use to put them down? Arelim. They're uncircumcised. If that is what's used to basically to speak, if you want to deride them, you call them an arel, then that shows you that being an arel, being uncircumcised, is something repulsive. That's why it was used in this negative context. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.